there. I promise you, right over there. They said, "Rah!" And I just kept walking. I seen me, see it.
Afternoon, boys and girls. Shut the That is a robot.
Now you mad. Small woman, bro. Small woman.
You know, I don't give a about none of these.
Hey yo, what's the deal? What's poppin'? So I see Aries Spears and Ice Cube, out of all people, had a little exchange there. Nothing too major, nothing too crazy. You know, Aries had spoke on Cube, made it be known in 2 interviews that he wasn't a fan of Ice Cube and what he does, whether his music, you know, his movies. He even went as far to mock Ice Cube and the way he talked. And he basically was like, Ice Cube ain't really got no personality like that. He's very limited with his acting skills, and he's very limited with his music. He basically saying, if you heard one Ice Cube song, you heard them all. And if you watched one Ice Cube movie, you seen them all, right? And that offended some people. But who else would it offend more than Ice Cube? So damn sure enough, it gets back to Cube, and you know, he calls Aries a sucker. And he didn't get out of his body. He didn't get out of pocket or anything like that. He didn't get reckless. He didn't stand up. He didn't go in on Aries. You know, he kept it kind of smooth. He kept kind of classy. He was all calm, cool, and collect about it. And he was just like, you know, the feeling is mutual. Because I'm sure, you know, basically, like, he ain't on nobody's top 10 list of comedians. So then that's when Aries decided to respond again.
Does nothing for me as a rapper and an actor. The song that makes me want to jump out of a window is Have a Good Day. Today was a good day. Rolling down the street in my 6'4". Police didn't come bother us no more. You might as well have them say green eggs and ham. Sam, I am.
Suckers usually don't like me. You know what I'm saying? Like the people that you know, they usually don't like me when they coming from that angle. That's cool though. You know, everybody got their opinion, and they all stink. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, it's cool. You know, he entitled to his opinion. It's the feeling is mutual. You know, I don't think he on anybody's list of top 10 comedians. You know what I mean? In the black community for sure.
I think it's so overly used and abused. Hate/hater. Because apparently I'm the poster child for the world's biggest hater. If you look up the word hate, it's my picture. When did we get to a point where, unless your opinion, and last time I checked, as human beings, we're all allowed to opinions. At what point does it get to where, unless your opinion is favorable about a person or a thing and goes with the flow of everyone else, you're a hater? I don't understand that. Am I not allowed to have an opinion and voice it if it's not in the direction of everybody else? And I said, look, man, I'm not a fan of Ice Cube. Musically or theatrically, I'm not a fan. And the first thing Ice Cube says is, well, most suckers don't like me. Then he goes on to say, I never heard of this dude. Then he finishes by saying, well, he's just not funny. Well, you can't have it both ways. If you don't know who I am, how do you know if I'm funny or not? For the record, I respect Ice Cube, the man. I respect Ice Cube in terms of what he's brought to the game. I just said I wasn't a fan of his artistry. I never attacked him as a man. I never attacked him in terms of his character. I said I wasn't a fan of his artistry. Fan of mine. So again, because I might not like something or someone, why is it hate?
And he's like, you know, basically his whole thing is, when you're speaking on someone and you're just saying, when you say that you're not a fan of someone, people got to stop saying that you're a hater for that. People feel like if you're not on the bandwagon with everybody else, if you're not a fan of it, if you're not praising it, people assume you're a hater. And you can spot them sometimes, but I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say Aries is necessarily a hater because he said what he said. I think it's the fact that it's like people, I felt like, why Cube out of all people? Because he, you know, he mocked him and everything. You know what I'm saying? He's kind of ragging on Cube a little bit. What it really comes down to is there's a way to go about things. But if you know anything about Aries, he's gonna do it the only way he knows how. Don't crack a joke. You know what I mean? He gonna go in a little bit, you know. You just say they didn't like the man's music, anything. And I think some people look at it like, you don't bother nobody. You know, why would you even take it that far? You could have just said, I'm not really a fan of Cube like that, and left it as that. But mind you, he's a comedian, he's an entertainer, so he's in front of the camera. When he's asked about Cube, whatever the case, especially on the Vlad, he went in. Today was a good day. You know, he went in, you know. So I think people felt like you ain't really had to do all that. When it come to Aries Spears, like, a lot of people, you ever read the comments and, you know, that be up under his interviews and stuff that he does, a lot of people don't be rocking with Aries. You know, they really feel like he one of them dudes who just a straight up asshole. You know what I mean? And I can understand where people are coming from. You know, like I say, when you're talking about Ice Cube, somebody who done did so much as far as black entertainment, right? And music, movie wise, all of that. Cube is one of them ones that it's like, you know, you rock with Cube. He mind his business. He don't really, you know what I'm saying? He don't really get involved in the nonsense, anything like that. So I think that's how those people looked at it. It's like you could have just easily said, yeah, I'm not really a fan of Ice Cube, and he could have left it as that. But we talking about a man who makes his money off of cracking jokes, so it's gonna hit a little bit different. You know, he gonna aim for the head a little bit instead of going for the arm or the leg. He might aim for the head, you know, just to drive the point home or whatever the case. And if you were somebody who didn't know anything about Aries, listening to him speak about Cube, you would think, well, he must hate this nigga. You know what I'm saying? If you didn't know who Aries was, if you didn't know his sense of humor, his tone, you know how he does things, you might look at it as, damn, well, this nigga is hating on Cube. You might look at it like that. You know, Aries, he's been accused of hating on people before. You know, he said it himself. You know, when people think about the word hater, they look in the dictionary and his face pops up. He said that, you know, he's so by a lot of people, he is dubbed as a straight up hater. I don't think he is a hater just because he say, I'm not a fan of Ice Cube, you know. But I can understand, it's like, you know, when you start mocking the man and all of that stuff, that's when it's like, well, you sure you don't dislike him? You sure it's just the music and the movies you dislike? Did you really have to do all of that? But you know, like I said, he's an entertainer, man. You know, this ain't the first time, and I promise you it won't be the last time Aries says some shit that niggas ain't gonna like. But shout out to Cube, him being the legend and everything. A lot of these dudes, if they was, you know, if it was one of these YN rapper dudes, anything, they probably would have got right out of pocket, would have got on Instagram, started acting a whole fool and everything. But Cube, he done been around long enough. He done did this and that 10 times over. He ain't got nothing to prove. He ain't got nothing to go back and forth with nobody. You know, everybody's not gonna rock with you as far as what you do. Shout out to Cube for handling it the way he did. You know what I mean? Calm, cool, collected. You know, and let's move on from it. But you know, that probably could be debated though. Like, what is a hater to y'all? When you think of somebody who is a hater, like this person hates on every damn body, right? They ain't got nothing good to say about nobody. Where's the line drawn? Because we don't all have, just because other people have something good to say about a movie or a song does not mean everybody's going to have anything good to say about that movie or that song. Just because these people have something good to say about this person or they praise this person does not mean when we don't praise the person and we don't have anything good to say, that doesn't mean we hate that person. It doesn't make us a hater either. You know, so where does the line end? You know, what's the definition of a hater? Because you know, when you got these platforms and you speak on this type of stuff, that's the first thing they're gonna call you. Oh, you a hater. You don't like, you know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many times I done spoke on certain shit and people jumped in my comments like, oh, you sound big. Just the other day I was talking about something and somebody, they couldn't wait to respond to what I was saying. Oh, you a hater, man. Stop the hate. Cut it out. You know, that's so people do love to throw that word around right there. Right? So I completely understand where Aries was coming from. The minute you don't agree, one thing that general consensus does, majority percentage wise does, you are perceived as a hater. And that doesn't necessarily mean that. But y'all let me know though, man, like, what is the definition of somebody you look at as a hater?
It went right over there. I swear, I promise you, it went right over there. They said, "Wow!" And I just kept walking. I seen it, seen me, see it.
Afternoon, boys and girls. Shut the That is a robot.
Now you mad.